Thank you for joining us. I'm China Green. Our top story this afternoon, law enforcement agencies continue to search for a 2-year-old boy who disappeared from his home north of Silet on Saturday. The sheriff's office released this photo. We have a photo here in a second of Dane Paulson right there, who was wearing a gray fuzzy hoodie with ears, black pants, blue and white shoes. When he disappeared, he has brown hair and green eyes. Paulson was last seen playing outside his home near the Silet River late Saturday afternoon. Over 100 community volunteers, nearly 90 certified search and rescue members, and 40 investigators have joined those search efforts. If you know anything, call the number there on your screen, 541-265-0669. KGW's Daisy Caballero is talking with search crews today. She'll have a live report coming up at 4 o'clock. A 4.5 earthquake that woke up some people in Washington today. A viewer shared these pictures of bottles that crashed in his kitchen in Friday Harbor, which is a town in the San Juan Islands. The earthquake hit near Orcas Island, north of Seattle, just after 5 a.m. this morning. There was no report of damage, and the U.S. Geological Survey team says tsunami is not expected. People have reported feeling it as far south as Seattle. Pacific Northwest Seismic Network Director Harold Tobin says this morning's earthquake was large enough to trigger the shake alert system.
There is a chance, a relatively small chance, of a larger earthquake, so that therefore it becomes a foreshock to a bigger earthquake. But that likelihood is down at the level of sort of 10% and lower in the next week or month or so. It is not impossible, however, that a larger earthquake could follow it.
Data shows this was the region's largest earthquake since 2019. All right, let's head over to Rod Hill for a look at the weather. How's it looking out there?
Well, we opened up some sun breaks and they quickly go away, and we have clouds, and we continue to see some light rain at times across the area, mostly really light precipitation. Radar's been showing all morning. The bulk of the moisture is out on the east side, moving up into the Cascades. Past temperatures are above freezing, though, and simply wet. So here's what our cameras are showing. At times, this has been quite bright, but right now it's mainly overcast. That's Schnuckwin's Casino Resort camera in Lincoln City. Temperature at the coast, 47. Pretty similar to what we're seeing here in the valley. Now you jump over the Cascades and it's sunny. It's a gorgeous day in Bend and other areas of Central Oregon. That's the Hot Springs Resort over at Warm Springs from Canida, and they're having a beautiful sunny day right there. You're gonna have a fun camera to look at. Here's downtown Portland. We're at 50, so it's not bad out temperature-wise. We have some light showers in the region. We'll continue to see that chance. I think we increase the likelihood of some sun breaks as we march through the afternoon hours. I have a mainly dry, partly cloudy at 8 o'clock with temperatures of 48 degrees. Okay, tomorrow looks wet. We'll have that forecast for you coming up.
Thanks, Rod. Now to an update on a deadly plane crash in Newburgh 2 years ago. The National Transportation Safety Board released its final report, finding that both the flight instructor and student pilot may have contributed to the crash. The NTSB says the student pilot likely failed to maintain control of the airplane, and instructor supervision of the flight was inadequate. 20-year-old Barrett Bavakwa was training to be a commercial pilot, and 22-year-old instructor Michaeli Cavalotti both died in the crash. In January, Bavakwa's family sued the pilot academy, claiming Cavalotti was solely responsible for failing to maintain control of the plane after letting it slow down below safe standards. They sought $27 million in damages through the wrongful death lawsuit.
I never would have thought I would have to live a day without my brother, and a lifetime without him doesn't seem fair.
The NTSB report says they did not find any mechanical failures that contributed to the crash. In Lynn County, 2 fishermen are safe after being rescued from an island surrounded by rising water yesterday. The Sweet Home Fire District says while the 2 were not in immediate danger, they couldn't make it back to shore. So crews brought them back in a boat. Neither was hurt. The fire district wants to remind people that water levels can rise rapidly with almost no warning when the Green Peter Dam spill gates are closed. There continues to be global fallout from last week's Oval Office meeting between President Donald Trump and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Negotiations between the U.S. and Ukraine are on hold for now, with Zelensky spending the weekend with European leaders. NBC's Keir Simons has more from Moscow.
Hey there, good day to you. The stunning scenes in the Oval Office and the ensuing crisis has been playing out on Russian TV all weekend. Amid those calls for President Zelensky to resign from some in the US, he was embraced by the British Prime Minister and met King Charles and sat with the French President on Sunday. The Prime Minister of the UK setting out a 4-point plan to try to get things back on track, including keeping military aid flowing to Ukraine and talking about a lasting peace that respects Ukraine's sovereignty and security. But here in Russia, the Kremlin posting a picture of that meeting of European leaders with President Zelensky, saying, here are the leaders who are organizing opposition to Trump and Putin, trying to double down on the idea that there might be a new alliance between Russia and the US, excluding Europe. One of the ironies of all this is that if the US decides to pull support for Ukraine, that significantly strengthens Russia's hand and perhaps makes a ceasefire or even a peace deal less likely. Moscow will think that that will present it with new opportunities on the battlefield.
That was NBC's Keir Siemens reporting. Over the weekend, protests were held across the country, including in Seattle, in support of Ukraine. And this was a scene Saturday along the Seattle waterfront.
What happened yesterday at the Oval Office is a very, very dangerous and scary sign.
We have a lot of support here, so no matter what administration is saying, we stand for Ukraine till the end.
Hundreds of people joined that protest, and for the second time in 2 weeks, hundreds of people showed up to a town hall hosted by Oregon District 3 Representative Maxine Dexter. The Congresswoman covered a wide array of topics, from concerns about Russia to the possibility of the partial government shutdown. She also broke down what Democrats are doing in response to the Trump administration's latest moves.
The Stop Musk Act is my first bill. We've signed on to many, whether it's trying to create a path for dreamers or it's protecting the EPA.
What we are seeing in our country is nothing less than a slide into a full-on autocracy. And that is something that goes against every value that I was raised with.
I'm terrified of what my future is going to be because it's so uncertain and it's so up in the air.
Dexter says that she hopes to hold more town halls in the future. And tomorrow night, right here on KGW, we have a special coverage of President Donald Trump's joint address to Congress. That begins at 6 o'clock our time. Here's a look at some national headlines this afternoon. Crews have been battling wildfires in North and South Carolina amid dry conditions and gusty winds, forcing dozens of neighborhoods to evacuate. South Carolina governor declaring a state emergency yesterday as more than 175 fires burned across the state. This was the biggest fire in the area since 2009. A wildfire then did $42 million in damage and burned down about 75 homes. Lighter winds are helping crews battle wildfires today, but officials say that the fire danger isn't over. The truce in Gaza Strip is reaching a critical impasse. Israel has cut off aid deliveries into Gaza yesterday and warned of additional consequences. Israel had proposed to extend the ceasefire first phase instead of beginning negotiations on the far more difficult second phase. Hamas has rejected that. The United Nations and other humanitarian aid providers are criticizing Israel's decision to stop supply deliveries and calling it a violation of international law. And the Vatican said today that Pope Francis had a good night rest after overcoming a setback in his recovery from pneumonia. He's now off mechanical ventilation and shows no sign of new infection following late last week's respiratory crisis. However, he's still receiving high flows of oxygen. And for the third straight Sunday, Pope Francis did not deliver his Sunday prayer. And now to Hollywood's big night, the 97th Academy Awards. The independent film Anora took home the most Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress. For the second time in his career, Adrien Brody won Best Actor, and this time it was for the role as a Holocaust survivor in The Brutalist. The musical fantasy film Wicked received honors in production design and costume design. And those are a look at your national headlines.